Hi, I'm Paula Fellingham. Thank you for joining me and welcome to Joyful Parenting. This episode is called 5 Keys to Great Communication, Part 1. You can find a copy of this show, my blog, and all my other shows on joyeverymorning.com. Before we can teach our children to communicate well, we have to learn how to do it ourselves. Let's begin with a fun story on communication. A construction worker approached the reception desk in a doctor's office. The receptionist asked him why he was there. He said, "I have shingles." She took down his name, address, medical insurance number, and told him to have a seat. 15 minutes later, the nurse came out and asked him what he had. "Shingles," he replied. She took down his height, weight, and a complete medical history and told him to wait in the examining room. A half hour later, the nurse came in and asked him what he had. "Shingles," he said again. She took his blood pressure and his temperature and told him to take off all his clothes and wait for the doctor in the room. An hour later, the doctor came in, asked him what he had, and he said, "Shingles." The doctor said, "Where?" And he said, "Outside in the truck. Where do you want me to put them?" Oh, let's talk about communicating positively. You know, in the book Secrets of Strong Families, it says, good communication isn't something that just happens among strong families. They make it happen. Family members who communicate well also know how to laugh together. They enjoy a sense of humor. They're able to openly express their feelings, their differences, their similarities, and their hopes for the future. When family members listen carefully to each other, they communicate an unspoken but powerful message that I care about you enough to listen to what you have to say. Learning and strengthening communication skills doesn't mean an end to all problems. Of course, it doesn't mean that strong families don't have conflict, because they do. Family members get angry with each other. They misunderstand one another, and sometimes they just disagree. But when they communicate, they're able to get their differences out in the open, where they can talk about them, discuss the problem, and come to a satisfactory solution which is agreeable for everyone. Now, that doesn't mean that the solution is going to give everybody involved exactly what they want. It just means that they've reached a common ground upon which they can agree. So here are 5 keys to great communication. Number 1, use good self-talk and positive self-fulfilling prophecies. Usually when we think about communicating, we think about how we talk to others. How about the way we talk to ourselves? How we're spoken to often determines how we feel about ourselves, and those feelings, either good or bad, help determine our self-talk. And you've heard this before. I know you have. We talk a lot these years about self-talk. An example of negative self-talk is, "I'm so stupid." And good self-talk is to think, that's not like me. I usually don't make mistakes like that. That's great self-talk. Children who are spoken to kindly and they hear praise and positive comments usually have good self-talk. Conversely, children who speak to themselves negatively many times have been spoken to unkindly. The good news is that children can adapt and change fairly quickly. So can adults. It depends really on how committed you are to creating that positive change in your life. You know, it's been my experience that when parents learn how to speak kindly and communicate positively with their children, those kids quickly respond to new words of love and their self-talk improves dramatically. Self-fulfilling prophecies are things that people say to us that sometimes affect the way we act. For example, if a child is told, "You'll never be a good athlete," he may believe it and never improve his athletic skills. On the other hand, positive communication, positive comments work wonders. Example, "You are such an obedient boy," or "You always obey the first time." "You're such a sharing girl." "You're so kind, honey." These types of comments encourage obedience by helping children believe that they always obey, they're always kind, they always share their toys. It's so important to speak positively because people usually become what they're told they are. Now listen to some negative and positive comments that can help determine behavior and character. I'm going to give the wrong one first each time. "You'll probably fight over these toys." "I know you're going to share this new toy because you're such sharing children." You never obey me. I'm sure you'll obey right away next time because you usually obey. You're such an obedient son. You kids are always quarreling. It's not like you to quarrel. You usually get along so well. From their earliest years, children can be cautioned when they begin to use negative self-talk. When they speak negatively, we can teach them how to think and talk positively. Here are some examples. When your child says, I just can't do this, you teach them to restate their feelings and say, you know, I'm having trouble with this, I'll try it again. That's healthy. Or when they say, I'm so ugly, you can teach them an alternative. I want to look better, how about if I change my hairdo? It usually is just one or two things that they need to change about themselves. And this can be easily done with parents' help. Teach children to try and focus as much as possible on solutions to their problems rather than just defining the problem. Here's another one. Our family just can't do math. You say, hey, math isn't what we're best at, but look at all the problems I did right. The second key to great communication is to try to understand before you try to be understood. Trying to understand before being understood means that we're more interested in others than in ourselves. And we can understand in three ways. Number one, think about being that person for a moment, with their life experiences, their needs, their desires. Number two, watch their body language for clues that tell how they're feeling. Number three, listen very carefully. Focus on their words, not on what you'll say next. Those are three ways to understand others. Sometimes the root of our problem is that we speak in a way that isn't clearly understood, or we say things in a way that puts people on the defensive. It's time to close. Tune into part 2 for the final 3 keys to great communication. Thank you for joining me. I'd love to meet you, and I'm happy to answer your parenting questions on my show. If you'd like, you can email me, get a copy of today's show, find my blog and my other shows on joyeverymorning.com. My friends, it's my hope that you'll be kind to yourself and patient with your family on your parenting adventure. Remember, there's no perfect family, and there are no perfect parents. The key is to learn from our mistakes, never give up trying to do our very best, and keep loving one another. Now let's go out and raise the joy level in our families and make it a wonderful day.